of April. You probably know that date better than I do, but there are Columbia rotates wards. There are 3-year terms, and 2 wards are up each year. And this year it is the first and fifth wards that will vote for council members. Going to start out. All 3 of our candidates are here. There's one contested race, and that is the fifth ward. And we'll start with the fifth ward candidates, Don Waterman and Christina Hartman. And the way I want to look at this, the way we want to do this is to start giving you 5 minutes to kind of introduce yourselves and give a general idea of why you're running and whatever you want to talk about. And then we'll have questions, and then about 3 minutes to finish at the end. And so we'll take about half an hour for the 2 of you. And just, I think I'll start with the incumbent, Don Waterman, who has been on the city council for 3 years, and take it away. And by the way,
hang on, folks at home.
If your time gets short, I will hold up these warnings for a minute, 30 seconds.
Appreciate that. Easier to try to keep a timer myself. So thank you.
We're getting there.
Got all 3 of us.
Well, I was just gonna focus on you for now.
Close up.
Yeah, it's not as close as you think. I know it's a little weird. Sorry about that. But yeah, that'll reduce distractions. Okay.
Okay, that works.
Thank you for your patience.
No, thank you all for the opportunity to be here, for hosting today, and for those that are online, thank you for attending and listening in online. So, my name is Don Waterman. I'm the incumbent 5th Ward City Councilman, finishing my first term. Looking forward to the challenges that Columbia has, and that's the reason I'm running for re-election. I feel like we've made some progress. Some of the things that I ran on initially, one was police staffing. At the time of 23, we were short approximately 40 positions. We're down to about 14 now, and the next class at our academy starts, I think it may be March. I know last time I spoke with them, they have a few more candidates. I think they're trying to work through the process so that they have a relatively full class. So hopefully that'll come close to filling the authorized position. So between that, I mentioned the academy. We now have our own academy. The great 2 advantages to that. One is it's about $1,000 less per recruit than what we were being charged sending them to the university's Law Enforcement Training Institute. And 2, LETI taught a very generic brand of policing. And for those that have lived here in Columbia for any time, know that we have some unique things that policies and the way we try to police, community policing here in Columbia. And the equipment, hardware, software programs that are used, we can introduce that from the beginning rather than having to untrain or whatever. So it cuts down on the field training once they graduate. So it's proven beneficial. We've had 3 classes. I think we've averaged about 12 per class. And very good recruits, good turnout. So progress on the police staffing, increases in pay have helped as well. The other one is infrastructure. We had an issue recently at council. Development was disapproved because the lack of existing or pre-existing infrastructure. The balance is going to be which should come first, infrastructure development or having the development then drive the infrastructure, which unfortunately is the way it has been. But that has its own issues. So we're going to have to learn and address how to balance that. And the other thing, some infrastructure for the city. For those that live on the south side of town, Forum, that project was actually part of the capital improvement sales tax in 2015, but it's going to finally start construction. I was looking at the website this morning. It's scheduled to start next year, 27, and make that 4 lanes all the way down. We are getting a report Monday about the electric transmission line. Trying to bring that back on the table. That's something that Columbia needs. The water bonds, happy to say that the upgrades and improvements to the water treatment plant are in progress. We finally got that moving. So infrastructure is something that I want to continue and see continue. We've got further development out in the Fifth Ward, Sinclair Road. That's going to need to be, developed, and that's on the plan on the current capital improvement sales tax that was just renewed. Thank you for that. Other things, a salt dome salt storage is going in just south of Mill Creek, and that will help the entire city, because right now the entire city, when it comes to street treatment in the winter weather, is done out of one facility. It's off of, I think it's Big Bear, I believe is where it is. So that one facility has to cover the entire city. And given the way the city's grown, as you can guess, that makes it very challenging. So having that salt dome, and that is already scheduled, I believe that's going to start this year and be in use for the 26-27 winter. So infrastructure, police staffing, public safety is an ongoing issue. I know we currently have issues with the homeless, and that's going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to need to work together to try to resolve. The Opportunity Campus is great, but it's not the final solution. It's a step. So how do we then move on from that? So work has started, and I want to see it through, and that's why I'm running for re-election.
Christina, 5 minutes.
Hi,
It feels like it's right in your face, but I promise it doesn't look as bad as it feels.
I'm Christina Hartman. I am a small business owner. Been involved in the community in one way or another, from volunteering to taking care of my 2 kiddos and making sure their schools and being involved in school as well. I am running for city council because I do believe that there is opportunity to strengthen our infrastructure and make it reliable for the people that live in the ward. I believe that we need job opportunities that are unique for our environment. So how do we invest in our community? One way to do that is through jobs and making sure that we have jobs that approach different aspects of our lives and what is needed for the community. And the other thing that I think is really important right now is housing availability. So those three things I think can really strengthen our community. When I started working for the state of Missouri, I worked there for about 10 years, where I did a variety of projects, from software development to systems analysis. And then I worked for a few Fortune 500 companies where I did very similar work. Some of it was on a global scale, and some of it was more unique and specific to Columbia. And those different jobs really helped me be able to understand, how do we bring teams together quickly to build something to make it last longer and make it work unique for that situation. And as I've progressed over my career, I went into security auditing, which means I go in and I look at systems and I evaluate them and understand how those 2 systems work together, where there's security flaws and where we can improve and make recommendations for making those improvements. And part of that work also is security policy development. So making sure that that companies and people understand, how do we keep our systems secure, and how do we educate people on good practices in becoming better at being more secure. So I think that will really relate and help me be able to come into city council and work with the teams, but also be able to look at things, identify kind of what's not being said, and read in between the lines, and be able to address those gaps that are possibly happening and possibly holding us back from having that strengthen things that our community needs in order to grow. I feel very passionate about being here and being involved in the community because this is the place that I chose for my kids to grow up. And so when they grow up, I want them to be able to have what I had. When I started out, I didn't have much. And so I grew from living in poverty to where I'm at today. And so I want my kids to understand how hard that is to do, but I also want my community to be able to help people lift themselves out of poverty. And we do that together. And we do that with strong policy. And I think that that is what is going to drive me to be a good candidate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, Sarah, you've got the field in front of you there, so.
Question.
So if there are any questions from our online viewers, you call them. Good question.
We had a well-attended public hearing the other night, testing and safety ordinance. So I'd like the two incumbents to talk about why they voted did. Christina to give comments on how she feels about it. I'm sure the incumbents are aware that this has been successfully litigated in other communities, and I fully expect we will go to litigation in our community if we have 6 months before it's enacted. As a protester, the way I testified was I'm concerned about my civil liberties to be on public streets and pork chops to get the word out about the fascism that's developing in our country. So thank you for your comments.
Let's see.
I'm getting messages that they say they're not hearing HQ. Are we back? Can you guys hear my voice?
Did it get unplugged maybe?
Oh, it did just freeze up.
That was in the meeting.
We got your audio back, but now we lost your video. Oh boy. So for a while we had video, but no audio. Now we've got video.
What that was. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. You're back.
Did it tap out in the middle of Alice's question?
It definitely did. We heard the end of Christina, and then we heard something in the deep background from somebody else's microphone.
Was Christina going to answer first?
Yeah.
Christina, do you mind to kind of restate the question as best you can as you answer?
Yeah, so
sorry,
Allison was asking us about the incumbents vote for the pedestrian safety ordinance. She also asked specifically about the litigation that is proposed or that could come as a result of the pedestrian ordinance. And then there was also a question because she mentioned as a protester standing, where she wants to stand, and she mentioned something called pork chops. So we were about to address what is pork chops, and I'll let Dawn talk about that, and then I guess were you saying I would answer first? Okay.
Might as well.
Okay. So the pork chop is when if you think of Broadway and Stadium, Providence. Yeah, both of them, I guess. Yeah. When you turn right, there's like a little area, like the
triangle shaped piece.
Yeah.
Okay, that divides the straight lane from the turn lane. That's what they call the pork chop.
It's just a little raised area of concrete.
A little raised area of concrete that vaguely resembles a pork chop shape.
Okay.
All right. So I'm not an incumbent, so I will answer as how I would have voted would I have been on there. I would have voted no on the pedestrian ordinance. I do believe that our safety and our policing needs to focus our policing needs to focus around the safety of people. I do believe everybody in Columbia wants to be safe. But I think for this ordinance, I would consider it a good governance issue. And so one of the things that I think about when I'm thinking good governance, I'm thinking about durability of the policy. How will that policy impact all the different communities that would be involved? And then I'm also thinking about when I want to make sure that it's going to last the test of time. And for me, I just don't see that policy lasting that. I don't think it's durable. And I don't know that I believe all of the communities were fully considered.
Don?
As you all know, I voted yes to approve it. For me, as to why, one, it is a safety issue. Cars going past, high rates of speeds, high volume of cars. You know, if those were children standing in the medians, I think everybody in here would be saying, no, we can't have that. I think that, so to me, it is a safety issue. Now, quite frankly, my wife, not so much a safety, her argument is, okay, where are they going to go? And that is one of the reasons why we said we will not be implementing this until 1st of July, which will give the Opportunity Campus a chance to open. So the people then can utilize that as one place to go and where they can gather their, utilize the resources that are going to be provided. Yes, I know a frequent topic was this will be litigated. We used it as part of our framework was the ordinance out of Springfield, Missouri. It's been in place since 2017. And when I was talking to their city clerk, when we were starting to research this, she was not aware of any specific litigation against it. And again, theirs was based on the research that they had and a safety issue. So that was my reason for voting yes. I still believe that regarding the litigation. If it happens, it happens. And, we will go forward from there.
Herb has a question.
Well, I was going to go to David Robinson's
Oh,
first.
okay.
That's okay. And then would it be then Dawn's turn to go
Sure.
first?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Well,
I think
well,
my intention was because you're running unopposed to have you introduce yourself and later on. But I think it probably makes sense to have you respond to the same question.
I would very much like
Fair.
to, but I do understand the format.
Yeah.
Since it's a question for the incumbent and I'm dying to answer, I did vote no on this. We have several pedestrian advocacy groups. We have boards and commissions that work on this. Our expert boards and commissions were sent this. We tabled it to send it to them for their opinions. They all said no. Our local pedestrian advocate said, this is not how you advocate for pedestrian safety. And I agree. If we wanted this to be about pedestrian safety, we would put in infrastructure to improve pedestrian safety. And we would put in laws that protect the pedestrians. What we're doing is putting in laws that regulate the motions of pedestrians and the places where they're allowed to be. This has been done before, and the cities that have done it, it hasn't resulted in better pedestrian safety. It increases the likelihood that pedestrians get blamed for their own injuries. And it's very hard to regulate. You cannot very easily judge a person's intentions. I don't think this is about safety. And the fact that our question is, where do they go, tells us that it was not about safety. I received, before this came to us, I received 200 emails asking us to ban panhandling. And then it came forward. We think we can use Springfield's pedestrian safety model. And I do think that it affects populations unequally when we legislate in that manner. I think there are better ways to get at the safety issue than this. I'm concerned that we're identifying which areas of Columbia have poor safety and then making them unusable to entire segments of our population. That would be non-drivers. I don't think now is a good time to infringe upon rights of the public using public infrastructure. I think that there is a lack of trust, and we cannot further erode that trust, and we cannot set that precedent at a municipal level for our city in the current political climate. You did talk about risk for legal overturn of the ordinance. I can say that we have had parties on both sides of the issue tell us that we're definitely going to get sued whichever way we vote.
Yeah.
So that was never off the table. We would have gotten sued, and I'm sure that we will. I can say that Oklahoma City had an ordinance that used the same framework as ours, as in to focus on safety as opposed to banning panhandling, which is a First Amendment right. Mm-hmm. If you ban panhandling, it's definitely getting overturned. Yeah. If you focus on safety narrowly tailored, it's harder to overturn. However, in Oklahoma City, theirs was struck down by the 10th U.S. District Circuit Court. And their reasoning was because they weren't able to provide sufficient evidence citing that safety was a concern at medians. And I questioned our evidence as well. And that made me question our ability to uphold this ordinance.
Okay, so yeah, David Robinson in the chat asks, he says, recently we seem to have had some communication problems within the city, between council and the public, between city government and employees, etc. How should we improve these issues?
Start with Don.
Okay, bear with me at home so I make you nauseous. There you go.
Okay. At the risk of a long back and forth, I'd like to have a little more clarification, or if you could point to a specific example or two. And if you want to type that in while I begin. Communication, outreach is an issue, it's come up. We've talked about it, among council. We've brought it up in our meetings with city staff about how do we get information out? Some have an emphasis on there should be a process, a checklist that, we follow, that if X happens and we go down the checklist and say, okay, this person says that, this person issues this information or whatever. I think that's fine to an extent, but you can get too bound up in processes that if you suddenly have something that's outside or exceeds the process, then everybody's lost. I do think, and one of the things that we're trying to do to reach out, both city staff and the council, I mean, we've had a lot more, if you look back at what we did this year around the budget. We've had a number of town halls about talking about the budget process, what goes into it. We had a community summit last year, and I think everyone from council to staff that attended the community summit was gobsmacked at the turnout that we had. I think we were probably expecting 75 to 100. The last I heard, it was close to 300 or more. I mean, between the chambers and the main foyer at City Hall, it was packed. We're doing another city summit, and I believe it's going to be in the same place in March. And again, it was a way to interact and for people to identify these are their concerns, for them to speak to us. As far as information out, you have some clarification?
Yeah, he says he likes this information too, but he says, I am obliquely referring to the movement for charter amendment. Disconnects between council, manager, employees, public.
Okay, I've heard that yes, that there is something going on about charter amendment, amending the charter. I haven't heard specifics beyond that. You know, what is the intent? Where are we going with it? If we are, there is one portion that I would like to say that I am in favor of, and that would be making council a full-time paid position. You know, because I'm fortunate, I'm retired from day-to-day work, you know, so now I can devote my time to council. My first year on council, I was working full-time and doing council. So, yes, it was a time management issue, and it was, you know, it was a challenge. But we don't want to limit the people on council to those that are either in a position where they can step away from work or they're retired. So it's, if you can, for those that are able to juggle both, God bless you. You know, I've been there, and it's a challenge. So that is maybe one area of the charter. If they're looking at changing the form of government, then what are we looking at? Are we looking to go to a strong mayor or something of that nature? Again, you're referring to it obliquely. Well, I'm not hearing the information coming to me that that's something on the table or that is being considered. You know, I had heard a hint of it, and I did ask the mayor about it. She said, yes, there's a small group, 3 or 4 people that she knew of that were beginning to advocate for it. I haven't heard anything beyond that. So how can I comment on something I haven't heard of?
Christina?
Yeah. I don't quite remember the original question at this point, but
I'm talking
do-
about improving communication because there's a disconnect between all the
and
different
the
layers.
city count.
I think it's funny, Clark. I mean, there was a long op-ed in Missouri, and it's probably been other places about it, and a concern that city staff are not following the wishes of the council in terms of following up on what they ask. And question is how to address that. And I think the proposed solution is to have a strong mayor who takes on a lot of the role of city manager has now, including hiring and firing department heads.
Okay.
And that's as far as I understand it. So if that question hadn't been asked, I was going to ask that later on.
I was too, and I would just chime in. The idea is to have a strong mayor. Firing the department head would be at the pleasure of the entire council, not solely the mayor. At this particular point, it's just a very rough draft that's drifting out there on what they want to do.
Yeah.
But I guess if you don't mind, if you can work into your thing, and I guess we can get back to Don afterward, is how would you feel about changes like that? There's been a lot of talk about city staff, department heads included, slow walking things that they don't want. There's problems with the city manager. Again, this is just things out of the community. You can address the truthfulness of all this. Not listening to the city council in terms of they issue something they want done. The city manager may or may not want it, and either slow walks it or just there's a personal pocket veto, as it were, of this going. I think this is the issues that people are concerned with. And that's why this particular group is secretly writing up whatever they're writing up.
So I think in terms of secrecy, I don't think things always work out how we would hope them to be if we're secretive about it. So we need to focus on transparency in this process. If people are serious about a charter change, they need to be transparent about it. We need to be talking about it. If there are issues between or beliefs that people feel things are being slow walked, we need to bring that out. We need to find out what is causing people to have reservations about the problem, really get in there and analyze the core issues. So for me, part of my systems background is what is that whole process? How do we dissect it? Who's involved in each of those processes? And how do we make it better for everyone? And
go ahead.
And if I was to talk specifics about Some of the structure things that I would like to see. I think city council has a lot. They have a lot going on, and they need a support team to help them be able to push through some of those issues. And so I think part of that is having the right support for the council, but also the right support for staff to push through those issues. Again, it's a community thing, so we all have to work together in order to make that happen. If that makes sense. I'm going to elaborate.
Putting you on the spot to try to address something that hasn't really been fully elucidated in terms of what it's going to do. But I suspect this is one of your earliest forums, right?
Yes.
And you're going to hear this, I'm sure, as the season progresses. So, Valerie, do you have an opinion on it? And again,
Thank you.
Don't want to put you on the spot on it.
I appreciate the opportunity. I know I'm treading on the format here a bit. We need charter change. I'm going to put that out there. We need it. We have difficulties filling the legislative role that we have because we don't have a lot of support to do that. Now, I would be very critical of a strong mayor format. I'm not sure that I'm entirely comfortable with that. We have an employee that reports to us. That's the city manager. We have the ability to hire and fire the city manager as it is. What I'm seeing is that we're not comfortable with that. And I understand why. What I think we need is more legislative ability. I think we would really benefit from having independent legal counsel for city council so that we have the supports to show us a pathway to complete a legal pathway to complete whatever it is that we'd like to work on. And I know, we have a legal department within the city, but I do feel like this is a significantly different role, right? They are trying to support and defend the ordinances and the structure of the government that we've already built. We want somebody who can show us the legal pathway to do something new. And we want those people to work together. I think this kind of structure that helps us be able to legislate would really benefit the city. I think that executive authority, I like having a city manager able to do that. I just think that we need some accountability for that role. And I do think that having more legislative authority helps us get that done, and it helps us to understand really what roles are within council and what we have the power to do. I think we may see some of those problems start to iron out when we have our own information. I do think that city council is a full-time job. There are people who do it part-time and there's people who do it successfully. City council will take up all the time that you're willing to give it. It could be a part-time job. It could be 2 full-time jobs. You decide. I think the public benefits from city council members who are able to dedicate all their time to it.
Valerie, could
And I
you define
think
legislative things that you're not able to do right now?
so. If we want to pursue a new ordinance of any kind, we ask staff to write us a report. We ask legal to prepare it for us. Ultimately, we get a yes or a no. We don't participate in drafting that ordinance. We usually don't get many stops when we're able to advise on the direction of how that's written. We can request work sessions to give a little bit more feedback. But a lot of times, whether or not we pursue something, that's not always something that we have oversight on. And I think it's something that we should have oversight on. So when I talk about empowering council, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because you're ultimately being held responsible for the end product.
Right.
So you're not able to actually get your hands in it because of the way that it is currently, correct?
Yeah, I'd also like to see us have more ability to control what's on
I
our
really,
agendas.
I really think this will be a major issue that probably is worthy of an entire
Panel.
meeting with
Yeah.
the panel. So
I'll just, to wrap up, I'll read Tyler Travers in the chat says he appreciates the question and echoes the thoughts. Other cities' councils are able to directly introduce legislation and pass policy much more quickly. He says Kansas City, Springfield, versus here in Columbia, where council must wait months or years for a report to begin addressing a policy priority. I think all the I thank all the respondents for being open to a change. That's a nice way to wrap that up.
question from online.
Yeah, Herb, do you want to answer your question? And then who goes first? I've lost track. Would it be Valerie's turn to answer it first, and then we want to make sure she has time to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Right. Herb, do you want to, yeah, he's unmuted, so he's gonna let her rip. Oh,
Mr. Waterman, you opened
Yes, sir.
with praiseworthy comments about the new peace officer training academy that is opened here and is under development. I share with their enthusiasm. You kept referring to we in this process, however, and it is under the authority of the Boone County Sheriff and the Boone County Commission, not Columbia, it's the client. I wonder if you meant this as we fellow citizens of Boone County, or you meant we, as a councilman, you're proposing that the city propose to the county commission and the sheriff that we become joint partners in the enterprise, which would be a rather considerable step. I'm not sure how I feel about it, and other members on the panel might like to comment on that if the latter.
Yeah, I think what I was referring to was the fact that, yes, what I was referring to was the fact that Columbia now has its own police academy. Okay, we do not. It is housed in a building that is across the alley from the current police station. I think what you're thinking of is the new law enforcement training academy that opened up by the Boone County Sheriff. Yes, that is run by the sheriff and Boone County. So they're actually separate entities. Okay, so that when I say we, I mean we as in the city of Columbia and our police academy.
I understand. You clarified it in my mind.
So the law enforcement training academy, I've toured it, and it is I think a wonderful facility. I think is going to be great for Boone County and surrounding counties. They have agreements in place to bring in, so I think it's actually going to be a great thing for Boone County. But to answer your question, or address your question directly, when I say we, I mean we as in Columbia and our own police academy, taught by our own police officers.
Thank you. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on, I guess.
Oh, sorry. My boss is texting me. Can't ignore the boss.
Yeah, so to me, I think that it is a good thing that we have policing and police trained here in our community. And I think that our policing needs to be focused specifically for in Columbia. Like we need to centralize that and bring that here because we do have unique needs. I think that we also need to make sure we're partnering with all of the appropriate agencies in ways that impact people's lives. So are we bringing in crisis workers, case workers first, or are we bringing them in later? I also think that we need to really think about how can we prevent some of this crime and really focusing on those preventative measures and resources that help us reduce that crime, not just through policing.
Yeah. Are we asking specifically about the training academy or the role of police in general?
Probably the latter.
Okay. Well, I'll answer a little bit of each. I think the training academy was a great step. we are really having a hard time recruiting officers. And this helped us because we have a specific training academy. They will stay with us and they won't get scooped after they graduate for someone that we put through the academy. I also think it's important for people to train up with Columbia's priorities. If they're serving in Columbia, I want them to be trained on our values and our forms of policing so that they don't train somewhere else and then have to get new training here. I think this is a win all around. I'm thankful that we have it. We graduated 14 people in January. That closes the gap quickly, and we need to close the gap quickly. As far as policing goes, what I hear from my constituents is that they want community-oriented policing. Mm-hmm. They don't want police officers in an SUV that they never see. They want to be able to have interactions. They want to see a person when they have a call. They want to meet the people who are regularly policing their area. And that means having regular beats where officers are generally in similar beats. And the thing that's preventing us from doing that is staffing. So we should not be staffing our police so thinly. We should not be having them work 12-hour days. I'd like to get them down to 10, and I'd like to have a downtown precinct. I also want to speak support for prevention. I'm concerned that 50% of our general fund goes to public safety. And in a time where federal support for public health is decreasing, we're going to have to put more of our general fund dollars to cover those programs that are now less funded. I don't want to see money from public health go away while money from policing is increasing, because some of the prevention measures that keep people from ending up homeless and policed, it feeds in negatively. I also want to speak support for the Office of Violence Prevention. They started the NOCAP group. Hold on, neighborhood. Man, that acronym is hard. Pre-council. It's for neighborhood activists and leaders, people with family and young ones to work together, try to work to address some of the disparities that we have that lead to hopelessness and make people more at risk for being preyed upon and recruited into crime. One of the things that I found really concerning in this kind of last rash of gun violence was that they were all children, all except one, ages 15 to 19. They were all children. We have to stop letting guns get in the hands of children. And we have to support our neighborhoods, support our families, help them to get their needs met, and reduce that vulnerability.
I want to wrap up the fifth ward, and so we can take about 3 minutes to summarize and tell us those of us who live in the fifth ward, why we should vote for you. And we started before with Don, so let's start now with Christina.
All right. So I think for me, the thing that came out today is that we are really we're very involved in the community, in how the policy is going to be happening. And we need to be able to do that in a way that supports the people around us, in a way that uplifts the community as a whole. And the way I think that we can do that is through reliable infrastructure, good policy, having job opportunities, and housing available for all different lifestyles, whether that be for people that are just coming out of high school or singles or couples, or people that are ready to transition from the big homes they've had and they want something different. Like, we need to have different options for different people. And I think that is the basis for all policy, is options for everyone.
Thank you.
Great.
Don?
Again, thank you for the opportunity, for hosting, the opportunity to be here and speak with everyone today. And thanks for the amplification on the proposed charter change. I learned something today, so I appreciate that. The reason, as I said, I'm asking for your vote is simply to continue the work that we've done. I know some of my votes have not been popular among the liberal side of the community, and I respect that. I know some of my votes have not been popular with the more conservative side of the community. So, and I understand that as well. I had a gentleman I recently met decided to make a donation to my campaign. When I thanked him, he sent me an email and he says, I support you because I appreciate someone that doesn't go to the extreme on either side. And that is where I've tried to be. Some people don't want to understand that, but that's where I've tried to be from the beginning. Is I recognize the fact that it can be a both and. Okay. I am tired of the extremism in politics. Okay. I try to avoid that. I will stand up here and say I have considered David Tyson Smith a friend of mine. Okay. And in fact, I dropped by his kickoff last night. Okay. We can work together, and that's what we have to do. Again, I don't expect you to agree with every vote. The question was asked about a divided council. I would say if you have 7 people voting in lockstep would be a terrifying idea. We're 7 individuals. We're going to have our different opinions, but we sit down, I believe that we sit down and we try to talk them out and come and figure out what may be best, come to a compromise if we can. And that's where I believe in. It's what I believe in, and that's what I'm going to try to continue to do. As I said, there's some projects that are ongoing, and I want to try and see them through and basically finish and continue the work that I've started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. And Valerie, since you did not get a chance to introduce yourself, we'll go just a little bit over time because we got started a little
Are
bit
you
late.
okay to be about 5 minutes?
If you
Yeah.
take about 5 minutes or so to just tell us who you are
Sure.
and why you're running again. And all that.
I'm Valerie Carroll. Yeah, I am the first ward representative. I'm running again. I'm currently unopposed. I ran for council because I was really concerned about the landscape of housing affordability in Columbia. I moved to Columbia just after spending some time for my postdoc in San Francisco. And I lived in the Bay Area during the height of their housing crisis. I moved back home when we had kids. And I was shocked to find that we had the same problems that I was battling over there here. And while I was there, I learned a lot of things. And so I decided that this is my community and I'm going to fight for it. So I volunteered for boards and commissions. I did 2 terms on planning and zoning. There was an unexpired seat available, is what I'll say, for first ward. So I ran for that. That was a year and a half ago now. So it hasn't been that long since last time I came to talk to you. And that's what an unexpired term is. I ran for affordability. A lot of the things that I was working on for affordability, we've just started to tackle. When I was first there, we completed the Boone County and Columbia housing study. And we're just starting to tackle some of the things on the implementation matrix there. One of the first things that I pushed for, one of the things that I ran on and pushed for as soon as I was in office, was the frequency of inspections for rentals. We're 55% renters in Columbia. So we are majority renters, and we don't have a lot of protections for renters. When we talk about rentals and we talk about conserving the stock of affordable housing, if rental properties are allowed to deteriorate over time, if we're not enforcing our codes, we're losing affordability every time one of those becomes uninhabitable. And I'm really concerned. During the time I was canvassing, I saw some very dangerous living conditions. People are not comfortable complaining. People who are housing insecure in a housing crisis are not going to complain. The only opportunity we have to catch those are during inspections. So that first thing that I pushed for, it's in public comment right now. I want to see that complete. I want to carry it through if I can. Some other things that we're working on are small lots and irregular lots in the first ward. We have a problem that we're older housing, and we came through in different stages of zoning code. And so what we call a lot size that you're allowed to build on at all is smaller or differently shaped than what it used to be. So if your house burned down tomorrow, you could not build the same thing. And so I think it's important that we have a zoning code that allows to build things similar to the fabric we already have. We have empty lots because those are too hard to build on because our zoning code wasn't built that way. So I'd like to be able to anticipate those challenges, build them into the code so we don't have a million people coming to us for multiple visits asking for exceptions for something that all of their neighbors already have.
Thank you. Yeah, John?
Very quickly, to Valerie's point about the rental codes, I just came across it this morning. Next Tuesday, February 10th, at the Arc at 4:00 is a public meeting about rental codes.
That's the one.
Cool. A good place to post that would be on Nextdoor, because I've kind of gotten hooked on Nextdoor, which is, and there are some complaints about housing on there. One woman's describing that her landlord had not fixed the furnace, and so she's heating her house with 3 space heaters, which can be very dangerous. And she sounds like she's turning them off when she leaves the house, but then her house gets very cold. The weather that we just had.
I had an intern that was working for me, and Molly, great intern, but she was living in a place where she was constantly trying to get that landlord to do something for her. And the landlord did not let her out of the lease until part of the roof almost fell on her head as she was leaving her house. Like, she could not get out of her lease until that point. And she had heating problems, water problems. Like, it was wild. And she's a student, and that's her impression of our town is, she knew better than that because she was involved in the community, and she knew that wasn't that. But for some kids, that's the impression we're leaving on them. Sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And good.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck in your campaigns. And
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
good to be here.
Thank you. Good signs for the future.
Good point.
Hey, John.
No, thank you.
So let's have our.
It'll take a while.
Ask the sound to sound.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
guys hungry?